Close your eyes for a moment. Let the noise of the day fall away and allow your mind to grow quiet. Somewhere beneath the surface of your busy thoughts, there is something you have been carrying. Today, we are going to look at it together. Think of something you did that you wish you could take back, a decision made too quickly, a moment when you were not the person you wanted to be. Hold it gently in your mind. Do not push it away. Simply notice that it is there. Perhaps it was a word spoken too harshly, in anger or in fear. A sentence you would give almost anything to unsay. Words are strange things. They take only a second to leave us, and yet they can echo in another person's heart for years. Or perhaps it was a door left unopened, the opportunity you did not take, the conversation you postponed until it was too late. Sometimes our deepest regrets are not about what we did, but about all the things we never allowed ourselves to do. Maybe you are thinking of a person you hurt, or a version of yourself you quietly let down. The self you promised you would become, and somehow never did. That gap between who we are and who we meant to be can ache like an old wound. That feeling sitting in your chest right now, that heaviness, that quiet ache, it has a name. We call it regret. And though we rarely speak about it openly, it shapes more of our lives than almost any other emotion we carry. Regret is one of the oldest feelings a human being can have. Long before philosophy had a name, people lay awake at night replaying their choices, wondering how things might have been different. You are not broken for feeling it. You are simply human. And yet, almost no one ever teaches us how to actually live with regret. We learn mathematics and history, but no one shows us what to do with the memory of our own mistakes. So we carry them silently, believing we are alone. We are not. Today, we are going to talk about it. Openly, calmly, and without judgment. We are going to look at what the wisest minds of the ancient world discovered about regret, and how their insights can quietly change the way you carry your own past. This is not about fixing you, because you are not broken. And it is not about erasing what happened, because the past cannot be erased. It is about something far more honest, learning to hold your own story differently, with steadier and kinder hands. It is about helping you understand why you are carrying something you were never meant to hold forever. The weight feels permanent, but it is not. The Stoics knew this 2,000 years ago, and their wisdom has lost none of its power since. The Stoic philosophers had a phrase they returned to again and again, in their letters, their journals, and their quiet morning meditations. Two simple Latin words that they believed could reorder an entire life when truly understood. Words meant not to frighten, but to free. Memento mori, remember that you must die. The Stoics carved it into stone, painted it on walls, and whispered it to themselves in moments of both triumph and despair. It was the foundation upon which everything else they believed was quietly built. Remember that you will die, not someday in an abstract future, but truly, inevitably, perhaps sooner than you imagine. The Stoics did not say this to create fear. They said it because only those who remember death ever fully remember to live. It sounds dark at first, even morbid. But the Stoics did not mean it as a threat hanging over your head. They meant it as a key, one that unlocks the prison of endless rumination and opens the door back into your one, brief, precious life. They meant it as a release. When you remember that your time is limited, the question changes. It is no longer, how do I undo my past? It becomes, what will I do with the time that remains? That single shift changes everything. Because when you truly understand that your time here is finite, that the days are actually numbered, not metaphorically, but literally, something inside you begins to loosen its grip on what cannot be changed and reaches instead for what still can be. Every moment is unrepeatable. This breath, this hour, this ordinary day will never come again. The Stoics found this thought not depressing, but clarifying. Scarcity is what gives anything its value, and nothing is scarcer than a single human moment. Seen this way, the past becomes exactly what it always was, a place you can visit in memory, but never again in body. You may walk through it in your mind 1,000 times, but you cannot live there. No one can. Life only moves in one direction. You were there, you made those choices. That much is true, and no philosophy worth trusting will ask you to deny it. The Stoics were never interested in comfortable lies. They were interested in what truth, fully accepted, can do for a human soul. But you made those choices with the information, the wounds, and the limited wisdom you had at the time. You were not the person you are now. The you who looks back today, with clearer eyes, simply did not exist when the choice was made. And then time moved, as it always does, as it always will. The river carried you forward whether you were ready or not. Blaming your past self for not knowing what only the future could teach is like blaming a child for not being grown. Consider Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men who ever lived. Emperor of Rome at the height of its reach, commander of its legions, with the known world bending to his word. If anyone could have escaped regret, surely it was him. He commanded armies across continents. He ruled an empire of millions. From the outside, his life looked like marble, solid, unshakable, complete. And yet the inside of his mind tells an entirely different and far more human story. If you read his private journals, the writings he never intended a single other person to see, you do not find the voice of a god among men. You find something far more valuable, the honest voice of a struggling human being. You find a man wrestling with himself every single day, scolding himself for losing his temper, reminding himself to be patient, to be just, to begin again. The most powerful man in the world, and his hardest battles were fought entirely within. He doubted himself. He regretted his failures. He fell short of his own ideals not once but repeatedly, and he knew it. The pages of his meditations are filled with the same self-reproach you have felt in your own quiet hours. And yet every morning he picked up his pen and began again. That was his secret, not perfection, but return. The willingness to fail, to acknowledge it honestly, and to start once more. Philosophy, for him, was simply the practice of beginning again. Here is the insight at the center of it all. The past is information, not identity. What you did is something you can learn from. It is not something you are condemned to be. Those are two profoundly different ways of carrying the same memory. There is a difference between guilt and shame that most people have never been taught, and the difference matters more than almost anything else in how a human being recovers from their own mistakes. Listen carefully, because this distinction can change your life. Guilt says, I did something bad. It points at the action, at the choice, at the moment. Guilt keeps the problem outside your essential self, where it can be examined, understood, and repaired. Guilt, handled wisely, is the beginning of growth. Shame says something far more dangerous. I am something bad. It moves the verdict from the action to the soul. Where guilt criticizes a choice, shame condemns the chooser. And a person who believes they are the problem can never see the way out. Guilt is useful. It is a signal, like pain in the body unpleasant, but full of information. It tells you where your values are by showing you exactly where you departed from them. A person who feels guilt is a person who still cares. Shame, on the other hand, is a trap. It offers no direction, no repair, no path forward. It simply repeats its single, paralyzing verdict. The Stoics would urge you to feel your guilt, learn from it fully, and refuse the invitation of shame. Epictetus, a man who was born a slave, who knew suffering most of us cannot imagine, taught one of the most radical ideas in the entire history of philosophy. An idea powerful enough to free a man whose body was in chains. Some things are up to us, some things are not. 8 simple words, and yet entire lives have been rebuilt upon them. Epictetus believed that nearly all human misery comes from confusing one category with the other. What is up to us? Our judgments, our intentions, our responses, our choices going forward. This is the small, sacred territory that no one, no emperor, no accident, no past mistake can ever take from you. It is yours completely. What is not up to us, what already happened, what others did, what we said years ago, what cannot be changed. To pour your strength against the unchangeable is to wage war on a stone wall. The wall does not suffer. You do. Think about the way water moves through the world. Watch a river sometime, closely and patiently. It encounters obstacles constantly, rocks, fallen trees, sudden drops. And notice what it never, ever does. It never stops to argue. Water does not stop at a stone and argue with it. It does not demand that the stone explain itself or replay the moment of collision 1,000 times. It simply acknowledges what is there and finds the way around. Then it keeps moving. And here is the quiet miracle. Over time, the water shapes the very stone that once blocked it. What seemed immovable is slowly smoothed, softened, transformed not by force, but by the simple persistence of moving forward day after day after day. You are water. Your nature is not to be stopped but to flow. Whatever stone sits in your past, however large, however sharp, your task is not to argue with it forever. Your task is to keep moving. Water always finds a way forward. There is a practice the Stoics called negative visualization, and at first it sounds like the opposite of wisdom. They would sit quietly, close their eyes, and deliberately imagine loss. But within this strange exercise hides one of philosophy's greatest gifts. Instead of imagining everything going right, you imagine losing what you love. The people, the health, the ordinary mornings you barely notice. Not to dwell in darkness, but to feel, even for a moment, how much you would give to have exactly what you already have. The purpose is not to depress yourself. It is to wake yourself up to what you already hold. We spend so much time grieving what the past took from us that we forget to see what it left behind. Gratitude is simply attention turned toward what remains. And look closer, even your mistakes brought you something. It feels wrong to say it, almost forbidden. But examine your life honestly, and you will find gifts with strange wrapping, strengths, friendships, entire chapters that exist only because something once went wrong. A lesson you could have learned no other way, a redirection that placed you on a better road, a person you met only because another door closed. The past you regret is woven into the present you would not trade. They cannot be separated. Your past, the whole of it, the proud parts and the painful ones made you. Remove a single piece, even the piece you hate most, and the person reading these words right now would not exist. You are the sum, not the worst term. Seneca wrote, "While we are postponing, life speeds by." He watched people defer their living, waiting to be worthy, waiting to feel ready, waiting until the guilt subsided. And he saw the years quietly leave them while they waited. Right now, in this very moment, life is happening. Not in your memories, not in your regrets here. The light in the room where you sit, the breath moving through you, this is not the rehearsal. This was always the performance. And this moment is asking only one thing of you, to be present. Not perfect, present. Perfection was never the assignment. Presence is. The candle does not need to be the sun. It only needs to burn where it stands. Self-forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood acts in all of human psychology. People resist it because they believe it means letting themselves off the hook. But genuine self-forgiveness is not the end of accountability. It is accountability, finally made bearable. It does not mean excusing what you did. The scales of truth stay balanced. The facts remain the facts. Forgiveness does not rewrite the record. It simply decides, deliberately and with open eyes, what the record is going to mean from this day forward. It means accepting that you were a different person then, not as an excuse, but as a truth. The person who made that choice no longer exists. They have been replaced, cell by cell and lesson by lesson, by the one who now remembers. So carry the lesson, keep it close, let it guide you, and choose, consciously, not to carry the punishment forever. A sentence with no end date is not justice. At some point, continuing to punish yourself stops being moral and starts being a habit. There is something beautiful in the Japanese art of kintsugi. When a treasured bowl breaks, the craftsman does not hide the damage or throw the bowl away. He does something that would sound impossible to most of us. He makes the breaking beautiful. Kintsugi is the art of repairing broken pottery with gold. The cracks are not disguised, they are illuminated, traced in precious metal, made the most striking feature of the piece. What was once damaged becomes, quite literally, what makes it valuable. Your regrets are your kintsugi. The gold lines running through who you are. Every place you broke and mended is now part of your design, visible proof that you did not stay broken. You were not ruined by your past. You were finished by it. Marcus Aurelius left us one final instruction, written to himself near the end. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Not tomorrow, not once the past is fully resolved. Now, in the only moment that was ever truly yours. You cannot rewrite what you did. No one can. But you hold the pen for everything that comes next, and the page is blank. So write something worthy of the lessons you paid so much to learn. Forward, always forward.